Steelers training camp observations. Aaron Rodgers opens up deep ball with DK Metcalf. You ever catch yourself watching a game and realize the season just changed in one quarter? That's the weird gravity of last Sunday. A 34-12 win over the Bengals that should have felt like a momentum boost turned into a cliffhanger when Aaron Rodgers left with a left wrist fracture. 1 minute the Steelers were rolling, the next minute the conversation was whether their veteran quarterback would throw a pass in Chicago. ESPN.com. Let's set the scene. Rodgers was sharp early, efficient throws, that little pocket magic that made him a household name, and then, late in the first half, he suffers a wrist injury that knocks him out for the rest of the game. Mason Rudolph didn't just hold down the fort. He drove the offense and kept the scoreboard moving, completing 12 of 16 for 127 yards and a touchdown. That performance turned what could have been panic into a "we have options" moment for Pittsburgh. ESPN.com. But the drama didn't stop there. Rodgers skipped Wednesday's practice while the team evaluated the fracture, a reasonable move when you're nursing a broken wrist and thinking about long-term availability. And then, in a hopeful sign, he returned to practice on Thursday as a limited participant, wearing a brace and testing the joint. That's a small but vital shift. Missing a session raises red flags. Returning in any capacity flips the script back toward optimism. Reuters, here's the reality everyone with a fantasy roster or ticket stub needs to swallow. A limited practice doesn't mean cleared for Sunday. It means the medical staff, coaches, and Rodgers himself are doing live experiments. Can he grip? Can he take a hit without compromising mechanics? Can he take snaps under center, or will the Steelers have to build more shotgun and pistol plays to protect the guy and his wrist? Mike Tomlin was measured about it. Availability, he said, will depend on comfort and functionality. Translation, if it's painful or risky, they'll sit him. If he can manage the mechanics, he'll try. This is where scheme and experience collide. Rodgers is a veteran with a football IQ that buys him time. He's played in tough environments, and, crucially, he's got a history of shifting to preserve the long game. The Steelers have options. Mason Rudolph proved last week he can lead scoring drives, and the coaching staff can adjust play calling to shorter drops and quicker reads. But there's an intangible you can't X and O away. Rodgers' presence alters how defenses play. Even limited, he changes coverages and opens up throws that others simply don't. That's the risk-reward calculus the Steelers are weighing this week. Reuters. Let's talk timeline and stakes. Pittsburgh sits at 6-4, and the schedule doesn't forgive missed chances. Next up is a road trip to Soldier Field to face Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears on Sunday, followed by a Week 13 showdown with Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. That sequence makes this more than a single-week decision. It's a strategic check of whether you push a veteran to play through pain for one game or preserve him for a larger mission. Coaches can make one-game decisions that jeopardize several more. Reuters, there's also the human side. Rodgers is 41. He's earned the right to make tough calls about his body, and he's not exactly a stranger to the spotlight. He's publicly said he wanted to test the wrist, which signals both confidence and a bit of competitive stubbornness. Classic Aaron. But veterans who play through pain sometimes pay later in mobility or accuracy. For fans who want him on the field this Sunday, that's the tension. Do you value the veteran's short-term juice over the possibility of longer-term degradation? Coaches have to answer that without the luxury of hindsight. MarqueeSportsNetwork.com. From a tactical standpoint for Chicago, whether Rodgers plays changes everything. If he's out, the Bears will prepare for Mason Rudolph's stylistic tendencies. Less improvisation, more reliance on scripted plays and the run game. If Rodgers plays but in a limited fashion, the Bears must decide how aggressively to test the left wrist with pressure and hits. Every defensive coordinator dreams of scheming for an injury. It's cold, but it's practical. The Bears aren't going to be gentle. They'll try to dictate the tempo and force Pittsburgh into mistakes. That's how you win matchups against teams with elite but vulnerable quarterbacks. Steelers.com. Now, let's be clear about Mason Rudolph. Last game was a reminder that backups can be more than placeholders. He managed the offense, connected on drives, and didn't let the team fall apart. That matters. The NFL is littered with teams that had gonna be a problem, backup moments turn into extended stretches of competent football. A team that trusts its depth can often survive a few bumps without losing the bigger picture. That's the silver lining Pittsburgh fans are clinging to. ESPN.com. What should you, the viewer or better or diehard, do with this? Pay attention to Monday and Thursday injury reports, but read the subtext. Limited participation after a mispractice is a positive signal, but the determining word remains comfort. If coaches mention under center struggles, that's a red flag for Rodgers playing significant snaps. If they talk about testing mechanics and he's taking more reps, the odds swing the other way. Keep watching the practice footage, how he throws, how he catches himself when pressured, hacks after a rep. Those micro moments tell the whole story. NFL.com. Finally, let's touch on the bigger picture. The Steelers are at a crossroads where every choice echoes. Protect the veteran and his wrist for potential playoff value, or roll the dice now to keep momentum and face a tougher recovery window later. That's the kind of narrative that defines seasons. You don't decide with emotion, you decide with data, with medical advice, and with a cold-eyed view of the schedule. For fans, it's a weekly storytelling drama. For decision makers, it's risk management with a franchise's future on the line. Reuters. No matter what happens Sunday, one thing is certain. This week has changed the stakes. Every play, every snap, every timeout will come with extra attention. Will Rodgers suit up and flex the magic that made him a legend? Or will Rudolph step in and keep the train rolling while the veteran heals? Either way, the next 4 days are going to feel like a season within a season. And football, predictably, will give us its answer on Sunday. Reuters. You saw the look, the tight grab, the wince, the slow walk toward the sideline. And in one silent instant, the whole day shifted. Pittsburgh left Acrisure Stadium with a 34-212 win over Cincinnati, but the headline everyone was whispering about on the way out was Aaron Rodgers' left wrist. Reuters. It didn't feel like a flawless victory. The offense had bright flashes. Rodgers had started hot, completing 9 of 15 for 116 yards and a touchdown before the injury. But the real story of the afternoon was how a team that's been scrappy all season learned to rescue itself when a star stumbles. Mason Rudolph stepped in and steadied the water. Efficient, focused, and exactly what you want when a veteran goes down. He finished the day 12 of 16 for 127 yards and a touchdown, and his calm kept Pittsburgh from wobbling. Reuters. Here's the medical news that set everyone's phones buzzing. Initial x-rays and follow-ups showed a small fracture in Rodgers' non-throwing left wrist. Coach Mike Tomlin later confirmed it won't need surgery, and the team framed the issue as one of